Hello and good morning. You are watching the Star Spangled Sit Down. I'm your host, Bobby Adelson Jr., the Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy right here in Kingston, Jamaica. We've got a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking education and volunteerism. And I'm very, very excited. I don't have one, but I've got two great interviews. First, we're going to kick it off with an interview with Keishia Thorpe. She's the 2021 Varkey Foundation Global Teacher Prize winner. $1 million she got with that prize. And stay tuned after that, because then I'm going to be talking with Saffrey Brown. She's the chair of the Council of Voluntary Social Services. So let's go ahead and kick it off. I'm speaking with Keishia Thorpe. Let's take a look at the video. Officer at the U.S. Embassy here in Kingston, Jamaica. I'm very happy to be here today with a very special guest, Keishia Thorpe, who is the winner of the 2021 Global Teacher Prize presented by the Varkey Foundation in partnership with UNESCO. Keishia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you're here in Jamaica. Of course, you are a Jamaican American.
Yes.
Where are you teaching at currently right now?
Well, I'm teaching at the International High School Langley Park in Bladensburg, Maryland, which is in Prince George's County, which is right outside of Washington, D.C.
So you're not just any teacher, right? You are the world's best teacher, according to the Global Teacher Prize. Tell us where you were when you found out, and what did getting that title, what did winning that award mean to you?
Well, when I found out that I won, it was honestly was in my living room. I know, because everything has gone virtual.
Right.
It was difficult for them to bring us all in a space together. And I found out over Zoom in my living room. And it was one of those tricky things where it was like a sly interview.
Right.
And then they mentioned it, and I think my sister got it before I did. And then they said it again, and then I got it, which is, the video on YouTube that is floating around.
Yes, of course.
Gone viral because I didn't get it at first, and then finally I got it. It was like, oh my goodness! But it felt, in that moment, I was so proud of myself, and the fact that I get to represent a whole body of teachers who I know are putting in the work inside and outside of the classroom, and just to the fact that I'm able to inspire young people across the globe, not just Jamaicans, not just Americans, but young people across the globe who have that dream for themselves.
And it wasn't just the recognition and the fact that you chosen out of thousands of applicants, but part of the prize is a $1 million award.
Yes.
What's the plans for that money? What are you looking to spend the million on?
One of the best thing about it is that what I like about the Varkey Foundation is that when they specifically choose people who they know are doing the work,
right,
and will use that prize to further the work and to further the impact. And for me, that's what I'm looking towards doing. I'm the co-founder of a nonprofit organization, US Elite, and we primarily are self-funded. And so for me, a lot of the impact that we have, we can expand that impact by using some of those resources. And so that's what my goal is.
Let's chat a little bit about that nonprofit. How long ago did you start it? What's the goal of the nonprofit?
So our nonprofit started when my sister and I, Dr. Keishia Thorpe, graduated from college, and we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to give back to the community of not just our community in Jamaica, and to help kids who we know were disadvantaged just like ourselves, who never really had that opportunity and access, but through scholarship were able to achieve our goals. But just thinking about kids globally who are experiencing some of those same challenges in achieving their dreams, and we wanted to make sure that that's a possibility for them. We started in 2005, and when we started with a small group of students that we're able to help to go to college. And our mission is to help these students to achieve a debt-free education through scholarships and awards. And I think for me, it made me realize the transformative power of a debt-free education, because I was able to have that for myself.
Yeah, and so on debt-free education, one of your focus groups is first generation Americans, immigrants, refugees. Why is it important to you to work with that specific targeted group when you think about debt-free education?
Because I think of all the challenges, especially in America, all the challenges, financial challenges, all the policies and all the things that, all the barriers that they run into that creates these massive barriers for them and hurdles that they're unable to really triumph on their own. And so for me, I want to help to create a pathway for success for them. And my story, like I tell most people, is their story. I've gone through the process and I've figured it out. And I think when they say you figure something out, you need to pass it on to make life better for others. And for me, I'm first generation student as well. And I know based on where I have come in my life that I now have disrupted the cycle of poverty in my family bloodline, and I want to do that for students as well. I want to do that for all immigrant kids, all refugee kids who have a dream of having a better way of life for themselves and their family.
So tell us your story. So born in Jamaica,
yes,
and you ended up getting a track scholarship. Tell us about your childhood and what made you say, hey, I could go to college in the U.S. or I want to run track in the United States.
Well, for myself, I'm from a family that was economically disadvantaged. I grew up with my grandmother, and we didn't have a lot of resources. One of the greatest thing that ever happened to me was going to St. Andrew High School for girls, because at that point I met John Messam, who ended up becoming my mentor and so close to me to the point where he played a father role in my life. He was the first person in my life that told me that college was possible for me, even though my grandmother instilled in me the value of education, but because of her limited ability, because she only had a functional education, she wanted us to graduate high school. But for me, it would have taken a lot more than that for me to see a future past high school for myself. And so when John Messam came into my life and made my sister and I realize that there is more to achieve, and because we also had big goals and dreams, not to limit ourselves, and he opened that pathway for us and that mindset, and also put us in situations where we were able to use track as a vehicle for that. And my coach, after Mr. Messam, Mr. Bolt, Leecroft Bolt at St. Andrew High School, really helped pave that way for my sister and I to go to college. And that was one of the best things that have ever happened to me, because I was able to go to college and live out this dream. And I just want to make sure that whatever I do, I pass that legacy of education on.
What do you miss most about Jamaica?
The food, the food, the culture. Oh my gosh, Jamaica has such a rich culture. Coming back, it's so funny, because while I was in Jamaica, and of course when you grow up impoverished and disadvantaged, you don't get to experience so many things. You don't get to travel as much. You don't get to go to some of those places. But every time I come back, I try to experience Jamaica in a whole different way. And for me, I love that, because it's almost like I'm rediscovering Jamaica over and over. And every time when I leave, I want to come back, because I feel excited. I'm like, what's going to happen next? What am I going to experience next? So it's just that excitement for me every time I get on the plane, and when it touches down, I get emotional.
Right. So, what do you think set you apart? Again, you beat out thousands of applicants, right? To be named global teacher, right? To win the Global Teacher Prize. What do you think set you apart from those other teachers? I definitely read that you have altered your curriculum. I haven't told you this. I used to be a teacher. I taught in the Bronx.
Awesome.
I was a public school teacher. And so when I read that, I was like, I did not do that for my students, or at least I did not do as good a job. So tell us what you think sets you apart from the others, and a little bit about that.
I definitely want to say that I respect everything that all teachers are doing, because students depend on us, and when they come into the classroom, sometimes we are the only caring adult that they see, and because of that as well, I think that one of the things that I really try to do is to make sure that I provide that space for them. I want my students to feel valued. I want them to have a voice. I want them to feel cared for. I want them to feel acknowledged. and I want them to be engaged. And a part of that is, and not only that, I want them to be global citizens. I don't want them to have limitations on themselves. I don't want them to say, I'm American, I'm a Jamaican, I'm a refugee, I'm an immigrant. I'm a global citizen. Especially in the world that we're living in now, right? Nobody is put in a box anymore, right? And so I try not to teach my students with labels. I try to make sure that they have this open global mindset. And a part of doing that is bringing things into the classroom and allowing them to not just learn academic skills from it, but be able to transfer those skills outside of the classroom to make learning practical and real for them. And so I think it also takes a lot of relationship building, because when kids trust you, they trust you with their future. When they know that you care about them, they show up for you when you show up for them.
Well, thank you so much for your role as a teacher. It really can't be overstated how the difference between a good teacher and a not so good teacher does in the lifespan of a student. So we're low on time now, but I want to give you a chance. What message would you have for the young people of Jamaica if you had to talk to them right now?
I'd say dream big. Your potential is limitless. Never let anyone put you in a box. Never let anyone put you in a corner. Don't think about all of the people who are not winning around you. Think about how you can win and how you can create a space for them, to bring them along as well. And I think one of the things that I want to say is that when you grow up in poverty and you make it out, you have an obligation to give back. You have an obligation to bring someone. And so it is incumbent upon us to make sure that whatever we're able to learn in this environment, we soak up everything. There's so many opportunities out there. Don't limit yourself. Take hold of all of it, grasp it, hold on to it, and make sure that you pass it on to the next generation, because we need to continue this whole legacy of education.
Fantastic message.
That's the only way we're going to move forward. Progress.
I agree. So, well, thank you so much, Keishia, and thank you for joining us. And enjoy the rest of your time here in Jamaica.
Yes.
And thank you all for watching, and have a good day. Well, that was my interview with Keishia Thorpe, the 2021 Varkey Foundation Global Teacher Prize Award winner, and that $1 million US prize. We actually have a comment pulling up right now. Donna Douglas West. She says, wow, I know her so well. She attended St. Andrew High School for girls with my daughter. Big up to St. Andrews High School. All right, we're going to move on and switch gears a little bit. We're going to go to my next guest, a live interview with Saffrey Brown, who is the head of innovation at the Leap Company and also the chair of the Council of Voluntary Social Services. Saffrey, welcome to the sit down.
Hi, Bobby. Thanks for having me. What an extraordinary woman Keishia is.
She is fantastic, and it's really nice to see her coming back and trying to do some good work here in Jamaica. But let's talk about the good work that you do in Jamaica. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the Council of Voluntary Social Services.
Well, I'm currently the chair of CVSS. This is my final year. CVSS is the voluntary, an umbrella organization for the voluntary sector. We just turned 80 last year. So we were really founded out of the social welfare movement of the late 1930s, early 1940s. And our mandate is to support the development of the voluntary sector, and to provide opportunities for capacity building, growth, development of the sector. So we have about 130 member organizations that we serve, that we work with. We also operate out of our home base, which is the National Volunteer Center, which is really what we like to consider the home of volunteerism, where we really promote volunteerism, where people can come in and they can ideate, and we can have knowledge exchange, and we can plan for collaborative approaches to things, and really ways that we can work together. And so that's a little bit about CVSS.
Okay, awesome. So you have a conference coming up. When is the conference? Tell us a little bit about it. What's the goal of the conference, and how can people register?
Well, we have a volunteer conference coming up on the 24th of February. It's in person, which we're really, really, really excited about. We're really looking forward to reconnecting with our members and and talking with our members and really kind of being able to feed off of the energy in the room. And we're really looking at collaboration over the last few years with COVID. When COVID first hit Jamaica back in March 2020, it was really kind of shock to the system. And a lot of the programming and support that these organizations would have gotten completely ceased because companies and donors themselves were in a state of flux. And what we recognized is that at that time, it was really, really critical for our members to collaborate, whether it was with each other, whether it was with private sector and companies, whether it was with government. And so we wanted to look at how we could help voluntary organizations understand better how you can collaborate towards achieving your goals. So really looking at national development. CVSS did an incredible project with PSOJ, the private sector organization of Jamaica, and American Friends of Jamaica, and United Way back in 2020, where we raised funds and were able to distribute over 70,000 food packages over a 4-month period during that time when the economy completely stopped. And the only way that we were able to deliver that kind of support to communities was because of the collaboration. And it's an area that we think really needs strengthening. So that's what we're going to be focusing on February 24th. It's going to be at the Terra Nova. We have some great speakers. We have Nicole Cirillo, who is the executive director of the International Association of Volunteer Experts out of the US. And she's going to come down and talk a little bit about her experience in terms of collaboration and how organizations can really use collaboration to get greater gains, to really be able to help you develop these long-term partnerships, so that when you do have something like a COVID pandemic that throws everything in a tailspin, that you still have that collaboration that can help see you through.
Is everyone able to attend this? Who is going to be able to attend?
So it is open, but we only have space for 60 because obviously, even though the space can accommodate 200, we
Right.
really want to make sure that we're careful with physical distancing and the protocol. So it's open to 60 people. We will be filming. So
Good.
we will, show videos afterwards. But we do recommend anybody who's interested in coming, go on our website, cvssja.org, and register. And then they'll get confirmation of being able to attend. But it's one of those things also that we want to make sure that when people are registering to come, that they come, because you have such limited spaces now. It's really, really important that when people say they're coming, they come, because it really means that others who really wanted to come would be missing out. So we're going to make sure we double check with everybody who says they're coming, that they're coming, and we're really excited to have everybody there.
Well, I understand that this is your first time doing this conference in 3 years, the last one being in 2019. And I also understand the Peace Corps was involved. So the pandemic has hit, which is obviously one of the reasons why it's been a few years since you've had a conference. Mm-hmm. How does volunteerism been affected during the pandemic?
So initially, I think so. A lot of the work that social sector organizations do is face-to-face. It's really about sort of supporting people, whether it is that you're doing, a feeding program for the homeless, or you're working with people living with HIV in a home. And what happened is it really, in terms of the resourcing and the ability to put in the protocols, it really affected these organizations to such an extent that they had to really pull back their services, and also the funding for their services. So what they found was that, funding ceased. You either had no new funding coming in, or existing funding was frozen. And so they really did suffer a great deal. And so what we want to do is make sure that we can help figure out a way to become more resilient. So we're also working on a program that's looking at the resilience of civil society during an upsurge in something like a pandemic, and how we make sure that civil society can be more resilient and more sustainable. And this has to do with all kinds. We did a lot of work with churches over the pandemic. They also had issues because they couldn't, they normally would raise funds through their collections and so on. So churches themselves had to pull back their programs. So this whole kind of social safety net ecosystem that we had in Jamaica was really affected very negatively. But I'm really happy to report that, a lot of these organizations are kind of back up and running at 100%. And trying to make up for lost time, but also trying to look at how they make sure in the future they don't have such a huge fallout from something like this. And I think it's probably across the board, right? Private sector companies, governments are all thinking, if this happens again, we're grappling with the same issues.
In the United States, volunteerism is ingrained in folks from a young age. It's part of our school curriculum. Sometimes people do it for trying to get into college and trying to get scholarships. What's your pitch to Jamaicans and Jamaican youth as to why they should volunteer? We're low on time now, so last question: what's your pitch to Jamaican folks?
Well, a lot of Jamaicans volunteer, right? They may not volunteer with formal organizations, but they volunteer in their schools. We've got a lot of service clubs in schools, from primary school go all the way up. We've got service clubs for young adults and the Rotarac and the Young Kiwanis and so on. So service is something that Jamaicans very much participate in. What we have to do is make sure that, especially for young people, we remove any barriers to volunteerism. And that's something that we look at, and we look at how working with companies and others out there, we can help remove those barriers. But absolutely, young people are engaged, they're at the table. The onus is really on us to make sure that we're providing the kinds of opportunities that really reaches out to them. And that's, I think, something that we're also going to be talking about at our upcoming conference.
Well, listen, thanks so much for coming on the Star Spangled Sit Down this morning. I'm excited. I'm going to see you in person on February 24th, Terra Nova. Folks, again, can register online at cvssja.org. Saffrey, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Bobby. See you on the 24th.
Can't wait. All right, that was my conversation with Saffrey Brown, the chair of the Council of Volunteer Social Services. And of course, I had that interview with Keishia Thorpe, the 2021 Varkey Foundation Global Teacher Prize Award winner. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you next time.